Hi friends, today we're going to talk about something that each of us experience but rarely fully realize: fear. Fear is one of the strongest emotions that can paralyze as well as inspire. It has accompanied us since childhood. We fear the dark, failure, loneliness, the unknown. But what if I told you that fear is not your enemy, but a powerful tool that can become your ally? In this video, we'll explore what fear is, how it affects our lives, and why it can be both a motivator and a destructive force. We'll talk about how to use fear to grow, how to turn it into fuel to achieve your goals, and why it's important not to let it control you. You'll learn how fear can be your teacher, but you'll also understand why it can become dangerous if ignored or misused. Are you ready to face fear and discover how it can change your life? Then let's get started. Fear is an ancient survival mechanism inherited from our ancestors. It was necessary to avoid dangers, predators, natural disasters, enemies. When a person faced a threat, his body reacted instantly. Heart rate increased, muscles tensed, and the brain focused on one task: to save itself. This mechanism is called hit or run, and it still works in all of us. But in today's world, fear is rarely associated with a real physical threat. Today, we fear failure, judgment, the unknown, losing a job, or a relationship. These fears are no less real, but they act on us differently. Instead of mobilizing us, they often paralyze us, causing us to postpone important decisions or avoid taking risks. So how does fear work on a physiological level? When you encounter something frightening, your brain activates the amygdala, the area responsible for emotions. It sends a signal to the hypothalamus, which triggers the release of hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol, which in turn activate the sympathetic nervous system. These hormones prepare the body for action. Blood pressure rises, breathing speeds up, and senses become heightened. But if the fear is not related to a real threat, this release of energy goes unused, which can lead to stress and anxiety. Fear is also closely related to our imagination. We often fear not what is happening now, but what might happen in the future. For example, fear of public speaking arises not because of the situation itself, but because of the way we imagine it. What if I forget the words? What if I get judged? These thoughts create an illusion of threat that can be much scarier than reality. That is, if you watched my videos that I've posted before, you might find a correlation between emotions, anxiety, and fear. For example, anxiety and fear arise from false perceptions of events that haven't even happened, and emotions are our reactions resulting from these perceptions. But fear has a positive side. It helps us avoid real dangers, motivates us to prepare for important events, and even encourages us to develop ourselves. For example, fear of failure can make you better prepare for an exam or job interview. The main thing is to learn to distinguish between useful fear and destructive fear, and to find the golden mean in this. Fear is a powerful force that can both limit and empower us. On the one hand, it protects us from rash actions and real threats. On the other hand, it can be a barrier that prevents us from moving forward. When fear controls us, it manifests as procrastination, avoidance, and self-limitation. For example, you may put off an important project for fear of failure, or avoid new acquaintances for fear of rejection. This creates a vicious cycle. The more you avoid, the stronger the fear becomes, and the less opportunity you have to grow. But fear can also be a motivator. Many successful people admit that it was fear that pushed them to take action. For example, the fear of being left without money can be an incentive to find a new job or start a business. Fear of losing loved ones motivates us to take care of them and appreciate every moment. Interestingly, fear is often associated with the comfort zone. We are afraid to step outside of it because it is associated with the unknown. But it is outside of the comfort zone that growth happens. When you overcome fear, you become stronger, more confident, and ready for new challenges. However, it is important to realize that fear can also be dangerous. If ignored or suppressed, it can develop into chronic anxiety or even panic attacks. Unexpressed fear accumulates and begins to affect your health, relationships, and quality of life. That's why it's important not to fight fear, but to learn to understand and use it. Fear is not only a limitation, but also a powerful source of energy. When you are faced with something frightening, your body mobilizes to deal with the threat. This energy can be channeled into achieving goals if you learn to manage it. One example is the fear of failure. Many people are afraid to start something new because they don't want to make mistakes. But if you look at the fear of failure from a different perspective, it can be an incentive for training and self-improvement. For example, athletes have a fear of failure before a competition, but this is what makes them train harder. Fear can also be a motivator to get out of your comfort zone. When you realize that your current situation no longer suits you, the fear of staying in it forever can spur you to take decisive action. For example, the fear of living a life without meaning can be the impetus to find your calling. But it's important to remember that fear is only a tool. It should not control you. To use fear as a motivator, you need to learn how to analyze it. Ask yourself the questions. What am I really afraid of? What is the worst thing that could happen? How can I prepare for it? Answering these questions will help you turn your fear into a plan of action. And in general, try to analyze your actions, emotions, and deeds. If you have the opportunity or the thought, it will help you to know yourself better and look at your personality from a different perspective. While fear can be useful, it can also be a destructive force if ignored or misused. For example, constantly suppressing fear can lead to chronic stress, which negatively affects health. It weakens the immune system, increases the risk of heart disease and depression. Another danger is irrational fears that have no real basis. For example, fear of the future or fear of failure can paralyze you and rob you of your ability to act. Such fears are often related to negative experiences or attitudes we internalized as children. In addition, fear can be used against you. For example, manipulators often use fear to control you, intimidate you to get you to act in their favor. It is important to learn to recognize these situations and not let fear control your decisions. But the greatest danger of fear is its ability to rob us of the present. When we constantly fear the future or worry about the past, we miss the moment that is happening in the here and now. Fear can steal your joy if you let it. To make fear your ally, you need to learn to understand and accept it. The first step is awareness. When you feel fear, don't run away from it, but ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Why does it cause me to feel this emotion? The second step is action. Use the energy of fear to accomplish your goals. For example, if you are afraid of public speaking, start small. Speak in front of friends or record a video. Gradually, you will get used to the situation and the fear will diminish. The third step is rethinking. Try to see fear as an opportunity for growth. For example, fear of failure can be an incentive to prepare, and fear of the unknown can be a reason to learn new things. Finally, remember that fear is a part of life. It will not disappear completely, but you can learn to live with it in harmony. Accept it as a teacher who helps you become stronger and wiser. Friends, fear is not an enemy but part of our inner world. It can be both a limiting force and a powerful motivator. It all depends on how you treat it. If you learn to understand your fear, accept it, and use its energy, it will become your ally on the road to success and self-actualization. Remember that fear is not the end, but the beginning of new opportunities, new discoveries, and a new level of your life. Do not be afraid of fear, because behind it lies your real strength. Thank you for being with us. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your experience in the comments. How do you deal with fear? What helps you move forward? Let's support each other along the way. See you in the next video in